So I'm welcoming onto the podcast this week Finola Crew of New Day Originals, the fashion label New Day Originals. And we've got lots to talk about because anyone that's listening to this podcast who is an entrepreneur, and I have quite a few online digital entrepreneurs listening to the podcast. She's got a really interesting story and how she's been affected by the pandemic and then risen out of the ashes as well and created something else from basically being stopped in her tracks like me during the pandemic. So 1 minute you're bumbling along merrily, and then obviously none of us could have seen that coming, and overnight I lost all my income, and I think Finn did too, and she's just going to explain her story. So welcome, thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me, Lisa. I've been following you and your Instagram for quite some time and really enjoying your style tips, and your sense of style is quite similar to mine. So I love following you and
Brilliant.
finding your finds. So
Yes,
great.
thank you.
It's a real privilege to be on.
Fantastic. I'm really looking forward to getting into your story because you've got a bit of a similar background to me, as well as being a entrepreneur. I used to work in the city. I used to work in corporate banking. I ended up at Coots Bank, and then 12 years ago I set up my own personal styling business, so became an entrepreneur after having the security of a corporate job and salary. So I just want to hand over to you and just hear the backstory really, and where you got to today to New Day Originals.
Yeah, so just kind of quick overview, like yourself. I studied at university I graduated in 91, so that'll tell you how old I am. And I took off to Paris at the age of 21 and spent a few years there, and obviously really influenced by the style there. But then a love took me to Australia, where I worked for 16 years. And interestingly, I started my career in Australia in fashion and working just on the shop floor for a few Australian brands, and then a French brand. And I absolutely loved it, but it just paid so badly. And I had a marketing degree behind me, and I just couldn't make ends meet really. And so I sort of began my journey into corporate, and I stayed there until, well, a couple of years ago, really. Got an MBA from University of Limerick in 2012 in Ireland. So really kind of set in the corporate world, and, reached the heady heights of sort of running marketing for big firms globally. And then in 2019, I'd been with a company about sort of 9 months. And prior to that, I'd set up Finique in 2016. And I decided in 2019 I'd just really had enough of corporate and the politics and the, I guess I found London quite a challenging place to work. And as I sort of got more zen, I realized that sort of a paycheck wasn't enough. And so, yeah, I made a big leap and decided to go full time into Finique, which is my occasion wear business. And I went full time into that in 2019.
So just to interrupt a bit, because this is quite uncanny and weird about how your story is like practically my story. It's like just that whole thing about starting in fashion. That's exactly what I did. Couldn't make ends meet because it paid so badly. So I made a conscious decision to go into corporate to get some money because I wanted a flat. I wanted to buy a flat in London, and I was 26 and I was like, I'm never going to be able to buy a flat on this salary. So I consciously went into banking, and it was the wrong environment for me. But for 10 years, I did make decent money, and I bought a flat, and it taught me loads of stuff about business. So you can't regret those things, but the environment was wrong. And like you, I wanted to do something more creative. So you started Finique, which was that was your prom dress and event. So was it just event dresses like bridesmaids, or just prom dresses, or what was the
Well,
business?
actually, I started it because, so just to tell you what kind of clothing it was, when I was working in corporate, I was going to a lot of awards nights. I was head of marketing and PR for in the retail tech sector, and like every other week there was some kind of thing to go to. And I just found that there wasn't a great offering for, evening wear at an affordable mid price. So yes, there was loads of stuff that was kind of way beyond my budget, and then on the other end there was a lot of just crap really. so
Yeah, yeah.
so I started kind of buying stuff from brands in Australia that I knew and sort of, shipping it over. And it was all a hassle. It would take weeks. And if I didn't like it, I couldn't send it back, and customs and duties and all of that. So I decided to start importing some of the brands I liked, and I set up Finique online. So originally it was occasion wear for sort of, you know, professional women, I guess, day wear as well. So again, going to lots of family weddings, and there was kind of Coast and Karen Millen and I, or Ted Baker, and it just wasn't my vibe. and I sort of missed the Australian kind of more effortless chic sort of look. And so I identified some labels, and they weren't even available in the UK at the time. And a bunch of designers agreed to let me, wholesale buy some stock in, and just kind of bootstrap that, bought a load of stock, maybe with my, my own money, and then had a great online store. And then about a year later, I could see that Amy Child's boutique in Brentwood
Oh,
was kind
yeah.
of, yeah, was closing down. And so I got in touch with the landlord and I said, what are the terms? And just like that, overnight, I decided to set up a physical store. So whilst, Prom was kind of something that just sort of fell into our laps, we never went out and sourced Prom brands, and we still don't carry any of the Angel or Tiffany or Piamici or any of those real Promy kind of brands, because I'm still very true to that kind of style ethic of, effortless chic. And I'm not into kind of dresses covered in gems with a lot of synthetic material.
Mm.
But we have done really well in Prom, because I think there are lots of young Prom ladies who are a bit more sophisticated and mature, and they want something different. And those are the kind of ladies who come to us. But you could just as easily have a 16-year-old confident girl wear one of our gowns as like myself, a 50-year-old woman. And so they're really about kind of more of a classic, but yet very glamorous, very chic look, and still in that nice price point, that's a bit more affordable.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I used to really love Alana Hill in Australia, but
yeah,
she wasn't affordable really. She was kind of a bit higher end, but
very
she
quirky. Yeah.
really quirky, but all the sort of clothes had really cool names, didn't they? Sort of like Take Me to Bed and stuff like that, like dresses and
Yeah,
big.
it was very coquettish, I think we call it,
Yeah,
just very kind of tongue in cheek. And I used to buy a lot of her stuff, but I generally bought it in the sale. Um, but yeah, she had used beautiful kind of laces and lots of embroidery. I don't know if she's still going actually. I don't.
no, she's not. I was very sad when I heard that. I was going to ask you actually, just like taking a bit of a handbrake turn here, but they've just announced that Boohoo has bought Topshop, because Topshop, obviously the big Oxford Street store is closing down. Boohoo have bought it and they're taking all of Topshop
Debenhams.
online, and someone's bought Debenhams and they're taking them online as well. And I just wondered what you thought
Yeah.
about
So
the loss of the.
Boohoo has bought Debenhams, and there was
Oh, right.
yesterday of ASOS buying Topshop.
Oh,
And the
okay.
Arcadia, I think, brands. So there's a few of them. I think Miss Selfridge might be in there as well. I mean, my thought really is my heart is dropping as you're just bringing up this topic, because I think since lockdown in March, I've had a lot of time to think about how wasteful this kind of one wear, low quality, fast fashion is. And I'm the first to say how guilty I am of that sort of addiction to having something new every time you want to go somewhere or
Mm.
go out. And I've become very mindful of that. And my heart is dropping to see the likes of Boohoo in particular, sort of, get bigger and bigger. I'm actually very familiar with the organization. They were a client in a company I worked in before, actually before they became a publicly listed company. And, I don't want to get into trouble, but I do know that, they are churning out stuff that is only intended to be maybe worn once, you know, probably,
Yeah, that's true.
you
Yeah.
know, is it quality? Is it so on trend that really is as soon as next week or next month, it's not going to be fashionable? And I think it's such a shame. In relation to ASOS, I think that they have much stronger sort of sustainability at their core. But likewise, you know, we all just have this addiction to going on just to seeing what we can buy because we're
Yeah.
just,
I
yeah.
tell you what, a lot of people don't like online shopping though, and it's all going online. You know, going to the shops was, or shopping was, a leisure activity. It was a nice thing to do. You know, as a girl growing up in Southend, I was, you know, Saturday would be going to Topshop to get something, you know, a dress. It's that shame that that leisure activity is going, and shopping online. It's, you know, you've just got to order a load of stuff and try it on at home because you don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, shopping is it's entertainment. It's a kind of a social occasion. And like you, I absolutely love a potter in some of the
Yeah.
you know, some of the smaller high streets and just, you know, in and out of little shops with independent brands. I mean, there's nothing more pleasurable. Obviously, since lockdown, that just hasn't been possible. You know, shopping, will it ever return to sort of the normal way we've thought about it? Then at the same time, I mean, sort of lockdown and COVID aside, you know, there's been a massive shift towards online. And I think our whole mindset has really sort of changed. It's, you know, having two online stores, which I do. I mean, obviously, Finique is quieter right now because no one's shopping for occasion wear. But you know, there was a time at Finique where we were almost going to stop selling online
Mm.
because you would send out a bunch of beautiful dresses. I mean, sometimes people would buy three, four, five gorgeous, you know, £300-400 dresses. So you'd be letting a couple of grand out of your shop and it would all come back all balled up, all
Oh,
terrible. And
yeah.
then, you know, there's the impact on the environment around all of that as well. You know, there's, you know, courier vans all over the place, just delivering stuff, picking it up, taking it back, you know, and we just, it goes beyond the manufacturer. It's all that fuel we're burning just so that we can just try on a load of stuff because the entertainment has moved from the physical street to our, you know, to our bedroom.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, I just don't know how we're going to stop this kind of ever increasing problem. I'm hoping that the Zennials and all those very smart kids coming up behind us are going to kind of, you know, stop tolerating and start to influence and lobby for this sort of, you know, reckless sort of shopping habits
Yeah.
to be curtailed.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, I think, you know, but like you say, mindsets are shifting now because people are becoming far more aware, and brands do need to show that they've got sustainable fabrics and all those sorts of things. You know, I think it's important. I'm just quite sad that the big Oxford Street top shop has gone because, you know, it was a nice leisure thing, a good thing to do, all of that. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all changes going forward. But I was just going to go back to Finique. So back to the story because I interrupted there and took us off on another tangent. But so you Finique and you had the shop and it was all going along merrily, and then the pandemic hit. No one was buying occasion wear, and it was just
Yeah. So, I mean, not only that, but we were, so obviously it hit, I think we closed on the 20th of March and we were, you know, slap bang in the middle of prom season, which, as I said, has grown a lot for us quite accidentally. And, you know, we enjoy it. We enjoy it very much. But moreover, we had tons and tons of dresses on order for girls who later never had their proms. And
mm,
over the weeks that sort of followed, all of those orders started to arrive. You know, they're prepaid. There's a great photo on my Finique Instagram that nearly makes me cry every time I look at it. It's just me just surrounded by boxes, just packed up with beautiful gowns that would never be worn. Um, and I still am thinking about how do I maybe rescue those gowns at some point in time and bring them back into my business because it's just so tragic and so wasteful that they may never be worn. It's bad enough that they're only worn once for, for the majority of people. I do like to think ours are very classic, and if a girl chooses well, she'll have that maybe for 18th birthdays and 21st and maybe on into her professional
Yeah.
life.
Is that, I mean, I think people are going to hopefully be mad for it though, like after this lockdown is over, because everyone's so fed up of not dressing up. Like, I think people will be desperate. They're saying it could be a bit like the Roaring Twenties, where everyone just goes super glam.
Yeah, or post World War II, and
Yeah.
those beautiful dresses kind of in the late 40s. Yeah, absolutely. I think so, but I do think that there's going to be a bit of a change. If I'm honest, when you look at kind of prom in particular and that sort of trend for, buying these, very gemmy, over the top dresses, I
Right.
think it's going to become a little bit more subdued. I think a lot of, if you think about, a young lady who's sort of in her GCSE year right now, or even a little bit younger, she's definitely picking up on this kind of austerity, this sort of lockdown vibe. And I just would be very surprised if there isn't more of a demand for probably something that's just a little bit more pared back and has a little bit more longevity. It's just my prediction, and I'd welcome it with open arms.
Yeah, because it is more sustainable. The fast fashion thing, obviously, all the waste that goes along with it is pretty awful, isn't it? But I think that might change. But that's really, you just then picked yourself up and started New Day Originals. So could you
So
just?
yeah, I mean, it took me a little bit of time to realize, like a lot of people, we're not actually coming out of this. Because if you remember when we reopened in July, actually July and August, there was sort of a sense that occasions were back on and people were pushing out their weddings to sort of the autumn. And I was getting contacted a
My
lot for.
doorbell keeps going right in the middle of this. Oh my goodness! Right, carry on. Sorry.
There's a lot of there were there was a lot of kind of activity, like not everybody was ordering gowns, and in fact a lot of the time I was saying, hang on a sec, are you sure it's happening, and I'm not a great saleswoman because I'm a very honest, authentic person, and I had had enough of all the wasted dresses I had to deliver during lockdown, to prom ladies. So so kind of in and around July, I was like, or August, I was like, oh my God, this isn't coming back. And I had had an idea in the back of my head for quite some time around doing something that was more comfy and casual, because I'm one of those people where I'm either glammed up to the nines or I'm the other end of the scale and I'm sort of in cozy clothing.
Yeah.
But having said that, I'm very, you know, I'm really into kind of the quality as well. So I was actually finding it quite hard to find something that sort of, I was excited about putting on when I was having my casual days. And then the more I looked into sustainability, the more I kind of really decided this has to be the most important value to my brand. So I went off and I started sourcing and looking at kind of samples and stuff like that. And then my head was just full of all these positive quotes and I just needed to get them out sort of and get something out. And with very little money and a lot of help from my husband in terms of designing. So we designed everything in house. We put together a collection and launched in November. So New Day Originals launched in November. And it's just been so fulfilling. I get emotional talking about it because I'm getting, so when I had, well, I still have Fanique, but I could spend hours with someone in a consultation for the biggest occasion of their lives. And I really put my heart into it. And I might, from maybe 10%, get a nice note and a picture back when they had their event, because I get very close to my customers.
Yeah.
And then with New Day, I would say 70-80% of the people who have bought our sweaters have sent me a photo, tagged me in a post, bought another one.
Oh,
It's
lovely.
just so much more gratifying, and it's just really aligns with how I'm feeling about everything right now. And I'm just very grateful to have the
Yeah.
opportunity.
I mean, I love the positive quotes. I'm going to talk about those in a minute, but this is the way people want to dress at the
Your
moment.
heart on your sleeve.
You know, I've got the heart on my, so I've got a sweatshirt I'm wearing for anyone that's listening to the podcast that says wearing your heart on your sleeve, and it's got your emblem, which is a beautiful heart, you know, outlined in gold, a red heart outlined in gold with a wing going out the top. It's really cool. And also you've got things like seize the day, and you've got the balanced life one's quite interesting. So that's sort of, it's a bit of a play on Balenciaga, that sort of extremely expensive brand.
Absolutely. Like it's, so there's a real kind of, you know, the brand is a real reflection of my personality, and there's a few sides to my personality. One is I really do like luxury and I like nice things, but I have no budget. Certainly don't have a budget now. But, you know, I do like that sense that I'm having luxury. I also like stuff that's really stylish and I can kind of wear a few different ways. I mean, like you've worn that sweatshirt now a couple of different ways, and I think that's a real sustainability message. But the balanced life one, so if anybody is listening to this and you just hop on to newdayoriginals.co.uk, you'll see that there's a kind of a range called Balanced Life. I mean, it is a little bit of a poke at kind of, you know, it's not about amassing these very expensive brands. It's actually about getting balance in your life, and that in itself is a luxury. And so if you actually go to our website, there's a story behind every slogan, and it's genuinely how we came up with it. And yes, we've had a little bit of a play with it, and it looks beautiful. There's actually, I think it's kind of like the Balmain bee and stuff like that. And we're just about to bring out that design and all these beautiful spring colors, because we do have people knocking down our door to get more of them. So yeah, it's
Oh,
a
check that
bit
out.
fun.
That is newdayoriginals.co.uk, and that's the balanced life range. But there's lots of other really positive quotes that we all need right now, because it's just grueling, frankly, this lockdown. And it's you know, sustainable fabric, but also clothes that you want to wear at the moment. You know, but I would wear this sweatshirt, for example, with, I've got quite a lot of glamorous skirts, so I'm a feminine dresser. So my style is like your style, like you said at the beginning, that sort of effortless, you know, but a little bit glam sometimes. So I'd like to wear, you know, like a metallic skirt or something with one of these sweatshirts, because I like to have a bit of, bring it down a notch. So I wouldn't wear two really glamorous things at once, if that makes sense. I always need to mix it up a bit, and then I feel like myself. So I think
Yeah,
that's what I really like about this brand.
I think that's very on trend as well. When we did our kind of little photo shoot just before Christmas, I did do that as well. I had a kind of I think it was from Zara, sort of a gold thread sort of skirt, but with kind of, you know, chunky boots, and then sort of a couple of different sweatshirts paired with that. And that was supposed to be my Christmas Day outfit, but I was stuck here, went nowhere, and just yeah, stayed in sort of comfy clothing all day long.
Yeah,
New Day
exactly.
sweatshirts. But yeah, it's a good brand, and as you say, it's kind of what people are wearing right now. And I think the other side of where the demand and the popularity is coming from, as well as the designs and sustainability, I think people really want to support small independent businesses right now. I When we did our first photo shoot, we did it during lockdown, and we were permitted to use a local hairdressing salon called the Brentwood Hairdresser.
Oh yeah, I've seen that on your
Yeah,
Instagram. Yeah.
it's the funkiest salon. I mean, you would expect to find it in Shoreditch. You know, it is, you know, it's a really cool place. But I was very lucky, the owner there, he just opened the doors and his arms to us, and let us just run riot in there for the day. But, you know, it was all my models were local small business owners, people who'd, you know, whose businesses were basically shut because of lockdown. So hairdressers, makeup artists, cafe owners, shop owners, whatever. They just all pitched in, and they were all my models in my shoot. And it was
Brilliant.
such a beautiful story. And then everybody in Brentwood just really got behind it. And, you know, whatever bit of money they had, they, you know, they bought their little bit of New Day Originals. And that's really going to be a lovely part of our brand story as we grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it because it's just, because it's got that meaning and the story behind it, and you're passionate about it. You got a bit emotional talking about it, which shows the heart and soul that goes into it as well. I mean, I was going to ask you as well, just to end up as well, about how has your style evolved as you've got, this is a podcast about style, image and fashion for people over 40. So, I'm still a bit rebellious. I don't like reading things saying you shouldn't wear this, that, and that when you're over 40. You've got to feel happy in what you wear. I would say my style is still the same in essence as it's always been, which is feminine with a bit of edge. That's sort of how I describe it. But what about you?
Yeah, I think we're the same, you know. I mean, I go through phases, and some mornings you'll wake up and you'll want to be one way, and another day another way. But I think also because it's so on trend right now to sort of mix those things, that's certainly become my go-to in terms of, what you should and should not wear. I think, my philosophy is it's lovely to get guidelines. Of course, this suits that figure and so on. And I do a lot of that in my shop when it is open. But I would always say to a customer, how do you feel? Like, truly, how do you feel? And when a customer comes out of the fitting room for me, when, with Finique, and they could be buying a dress for their 50th birthday or 60th, or mother of the bride, or even a prom girl, I can tell from their face how they feel. And I think what suits you is what makes you look comfortable and relaxed and smiling. And, you know, that's why there's so much choice, because the same thing doesn't suit everyone. So you may pull off your look, but someone else might feel incredibly uncomfortable in that. And we're sort of surrounded by options. But I would say my big tip is really, don't worry about what other people expect or think. Really tap into how you feel in it. And also, with expertise like your own, yes, learn how to dress for your body shape, and, little tips and tricks around that will make you feel better and more confident. I don't believe age, because I think a few years ago, I used to wear kind of those little short dresses with kind of the opaque tights, and then sort of a knee, just over the knee kind of boot. I just naturally stopped wearing that for me, because just naturally I kind of decided it didn't look that great on me anymore. It just didn't suit my vibe. And it's not because of age. I think you just naturally choose what makes you feel good. So kind of really tap into that.
Yeah, I think your perspective just naturally changes, doesn't it? You're like, actually, that doesn't work for me anymore. I've evolved. This is, why people need to sort of look at their wardrobe regularly, because we evolve and change all the time. So get rid of the stuff that doesn't work for you anymore. Don't hang on to it just because, it cost you money and it looked great 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, but we can sell these things on now. There's ways to not sell them on, but give them to charity, or to make sure that they are disposed of in an ethical way as well. So that's really important. But
Yeah, and that's a challenge at the moment, I think. I mean, just looking down our high street, people are just dumping all kinds of stuff outside the charity shops. But I think, it is very hard to part with clothes. They have a real sentimental value for me. So I'm just hoping my nieces might want to wear them, in a few years' time.
yeah, but that emotions are attached to clothes, and you're emotionally attached to this brand, and it's impossible not to be emotional about clothes, because it's
Yeah.
part of your identity. So it's really, really hard to do that. But that's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. I really enjoyed that chat.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much, Lisa, for the opportunity.
Good luck with New Day Originals. Check it out. So it's newdayoriginals.co.uk. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.